A social chameleon. I believe I've described myself like this in the past on this channel. And recently, a coaching client in the group that I coach for, in Andy Kill Your Inner Losers group, someone came in and said they consider themselves a social chameleon and they were asking, is there any way to not be this anymore? So I wanted to do a video for this on my channel and talk about it. So, what do I mean by social chameleon? Well, the way this guy and myself were describing it when we talked was you match the energy of people who are talking to you. You match the vibe of people who are talking to you. And in some cases, you can get very, very good at spotting someone's vibe and reflecting to them the vibe that they're putting across. It's why some people would look at this and think it's actually quite a good skill to have socially. But where the problem comes from is doing this as like a baseline for everything. You're always matching other people. We called it like Aikido, you know, like Aikido is based on the idea that you can take someone else's energy and redirect it. And it's kind of like that in conversation. You get the energy from someone else, you get a vibe from someone else, and you calibrate a specific vibe or energy back at them that's kind of close to where they are. And sometimes this manifests in letting people like dictate all the conversations. Like you don't really impose yourself on other people at all. Sometimes I don't think it goes as far as like lying. I don't think we can include if you start lying in conversations to make friends. I wouldn't include that within the whole concept of social chameleon. Maybe some people would, because the whole concept of a chameleon is they like, you know, they cover themselves and make themselves look like something they aren't. We don't necessarily mean that. I mean, there have been occasions where maybe I've told lies in conversations to when I was, especially when I was younger and I was scared socially, maybe there were, but this really refers more to vibe matching with people, you know, and that's why it comes into the idea of like, is this a problem? Because like with the guy I've been talking to in the group, and he's going to watch this video as well, there is a feeling that you sacrifice a strong sense of self, that you sacrifice you're letting yourself get like walked over socially, I guess. There's like a feeling that this isn't a good thing because you're not presenting a strong idea of who you are to the world, specifically in your social circle. Like if you're going into your social circle and all you do is like match the vibe of whoever you're talking to, yeah, you're not really imposing yourself or who you are in your social life. And maybe that's where guys feel like the whole thing they're doing is incongruent to who they are, like who they actually want to be with the people they socialize with. So I can see that, like that being a fight in your mind about whether or not you're being true to yourself and whether you're actually like developing a social identity. I'd say this comes with guys who were maybe a bit stunted socially growing up. Maybe got to the end of their school year, their college and uni years, and thought, I didn't get the most out of this socially. I'm not as far along as maybe my peer group is. And then they throw themselves into socializing at a later date than a lot of other people did. Myself, for example, I was brought up isolated on a farm in the middle of nowhere as an only child. So I always felt like my development was quite stunted. And I spent most of my college years trying to learn how to socialize, most of my early 20s trying to learn how to socialize. And I used this kind of vibe matching, energy matching, you know, spotting where people are coming from, like what kind of energy they're putting off and trying to match that as technique, as like a social skill to endear myself to people, because I didn't really know how to make friends that well. So this was like almost a reactionary thing. And I think that's the case for a lot of guys who have this. It's like a reactionary thing that you do because you're not super comfortable, but it's not like a beginner thing, because obviously you have to be able to read people and you have to be able to like flow in conversation in a way that you expect them to react well to. So it's actually, that's what I'm going to come across to next, like questioning whether this is a problem or not. It's kind of a useful skill in the early days. If you haven't got much social practice, if you haven't socialized very much, there's an argument that this is useful. And maybe it's about that stage where you're just trying to put yourself out there in a bit more of a, you know, a safer way, just to learn how to read people. I don't see this as a particularly bad thing if it's a phase, you know, if it's like a phase and you're socializing and everything, this may not be a bad thing at all. It seems like it could be very useful. So when we're asking the question of like, is this a bad thing overall? We have to include the part where for a lot of guys, this is how they get a foot into social groups. This is how they get a foot into making their first friends. This is how they get a foot in if they're in a new city to meeting people. There is usefulness to having this ability to read people and match vibe and energy. Yeah, it can help you. However, if you're watching this and you're like, I want to assert myself, I want to assert my personality more, fine. We can examine how you do that too. You can maybe say you're at a later stage, like you've made friends, you have a good social group. You can go to, like me, I can go to any new city in the world and I can make friends. I can go on a night out and meet new people, no problem. And now I want to start asserting who I am. I want to have a strong identity and I want to be able to actually, like find people that just vibe with me and I don't have to bring myself down or bring myself up and just try and vibe with them and, go on nights out that I don't want to, hang out in social situations that I don't want to, have more control and choice about what my social life looks like, what my friendship circle looks like. That is fine. You do what you want to do. You've moved past the phase where you need to have experience, okay? Now it's like a lifestyle design situation. You're building it. Cool. So at this point, it's my general social advice, which is screening. Okay, this is what I also advise for dating. Like need is the wrong word. You want to get to a level where you are choosing who your partners are in dating. You're not just going for whatever you get. You're screening in the exact kind of girls you want. And this, if anything, is more important with friends, especially when you get older and you have less time and less energy and you only want to spend it with friends you actually care about and they care about you. This is when you begin screening. And frankly, if you're acting as a social chameleon and you're bringing your energy and your vibe way down to what it is usually or way up beyond what it is usually, those people you're talking to and hanging out with just aren't necessarily good click. They don't click very well with you. They don't vibe super well with you. Now, I said it's useful to be able to talk to those people and meet those people on their level. And, that could be very useful for like business relationships and maybe building like wider social circles. But in terms of your close friends, the friends you get on with well, I would really prefer that I only hung out with people where the energy is like seamless and feels super easy to be around them and they get me and I get them. And you can build that, but you can also have that pretty quickly off the bat and you can meet people that very much, vibe with you. But then also, this is the kind of screening we're looking for when it comes to screening like energy. There are other things you screen for as well, like, loyalty, honesty, good at the ethics match up, all that stuff. When it comes to pure energy and vibe, yes, you can screen for that as well. That's something that's part of the screening criteria. I have quite a long list of like friendship screening criteria. And, when they match certain things, like they love going on like adventures, they love traveling, they're very open-minded, they like to be like having honest conversations. Our energy tends to pretty much always line up pretty well. It may be because I don't have to expend as much energy being around them. I don't have to go jump. The vibe is what I'm used to and what I've like adapted for myself because it's very much my vibe too. Sometimes these things just intersect, like having a lot of the same interests and having a lot of the same mannerisms basically equal having the same vibe and energy, So screen harder for your friends, figure out who you want to hang around with, who you found it easy to be hanging around with, and get very good at spotting those characteristics. This is my general social advice. It's not even completely relevant necessarily just to this issue. It's relevant to like all issues of friendship and relationships. Screening is the best mindset to have because you're taking time away from people who will sap your energy, who don't want to be around, who force you to act like someone you don't want to be, and you give your time to the people that don't do all those things. It's remarkably simple. It's something that comes with like having boundaries with yourself, being like, just don't spend time with those people. It's actually a little bit harder in the beginning than maybe some people think, but you will get there if you keep practicing and you use the skills that you've built socializing, being the social chameleon, to spot the people that you do click with and you do want to hang out with. I do want to finish maybe talking specifically to the guy that asked this question and to maybe some other guys who have asked me this before. Is there a chance that you're telling yourself as a story that you are a social chameleon, that you're someone who does not have a strong like personality? In certain guys' cases, are you telling yourself you're not good socially when you are? Because I've met a lot of guys who claim this and they're very like, cool, open-minded, honest guys, great to talk to. They're deep into self-improvement. Obviously, they are analyzing themselves and realizing things about themselves and trying to get better. You may be a lot better and you may be not giving yourself credit for how well you handle yourself socially, how well people view you, especially guys into self-improvement. Like some guys, there's a saying that someone said in the group, like, you're probably really good at this, but you're the last person to know. That's something to be said. And like, if you're good at reading people, if you're good at talking to people, if you're already good at making friends you have all the skills we've spoken about, you have the ability to do this, there's a chance you're already pretty good at socializing, and you can start giving yourself credit, and you can start focusing on, actually less practice and more just choosing your friends, choosing who you hang out with, being more strict about who's in your life and who isn't, because you maybe don't need to go and talk to as many people you don't want to as you had to. This might just be a case of, I'm talking to a lot of people I don't really want to talk to. That might be the cause of why you feel like this. And so I tell you to be a bit more strict about who you screen in and who you hang out with, and just recognize that you may already be very good at socializing, and you don't need to necessarily change how you do things. You just need to be more picky about the people you actually start conversations with and hang out with in the first place. Hope this video has helped people out there who are interested in this topic. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you again in the future. Peace.